Hey guys, welcome or welcome back to my channel. If you are new here or finding my channel for the first time by way of this video, welcome, come on in. I've been doing a series here where I've been sharing how I married a man that I had absolutely no business marrying, child. Ignored all the red flags, ignored all the warning signs. I even had a dream. My intuition was screaming at me, and I married that man anyways, and I suffered. And I have been sharing different experiences that took place in that marriage and all the things that I uncovered about how wicked this man truly was. And so I decided to be a cautionary tale for everyone of what not to do, what not to ignore, and just really how we should be navigating relationships to get the best possible results, okay? Today's video is going to be a little different. So with me sharing my story, obviously this has opened me up to such a wide community of women from all different walks of life. And so I get messages from women on the daily that are telling me they're currently going through the same thing, or they went through it, you know, how my story, resonated with them, and how helpful it was or has been to them. And so I'm just truly grateful for that. It has not been easy. For me to share my story, obviously this takes a lot of not only vulnerability, but a lot of strength, a lot of courage. And so even though I sit here and I've been sharing some of the most gruesome detailed stuff and been laying it all out here, it hasn't been easy. And but I know that I'm doing the right thing. I know I needed to share it. It was just, I didn't want to internalize these things, because as I was going through the uncovering process in 2023, when everything started coming out, I had nobody to talk to. I felt very isolated, and I had to internalize everything that I was uncovering at the time. And so when you internalize things that are that heavy and that dark, it can physically make you sick. And so in 2023, because I felt like I had to hold everything in that I was finding out about this man, you know, I was physically going through it. Like, I lost a lot of weight, and you know, I just realized, you know, I can't hold all of this in. Like, I can't, you know what I mean? It's not my burden to carry. And so in 2024, I decided to start sharing, you know, some details with like some of my closer family members, just because, again, I needed to release this. And but I didn't feel comfortable dumping, because it was a lot, as you guys have seen. It has been a lot. It has been just a lot of dark stuff. And the one thing, I don't like to dump on people. I'm that person. I really like to keep my relationships, friendships light, airy, fun. And you know, I know, you know, you're supposed to have relationships and you should have people that you can go and confide in. And I agree to that. But I don't like to feel like I'm dumping. So a lot of things I just would not share, because it was just too much, you know what I mean? And I don't want to dump on people. So in April of this year, I just really felt led to start sharing my story online, and I can dump it here because whoever is meant to see and whoever chooses to watch can watch. If it's too much, you don't consume it, right? So if it's content that you just feel like, nope, I don't want that energy, you don't have to watch it. But I know that my story is helping so many women, because they're reminding me of that every day. And so yeah, I'm proud of myself for finally opening up and sharing this. But with all of that being said, about a couple weeks ago, a woman reached out to me, and I did not see her message. She reached out to me on Instagram and TikTok, and I didn't see her message on either platform until, what is today? About 2 days ago. And I seen her message on Instagram, and she said she found me on YouTube, and she had been watching my videos, and my videos have really been helpful to her. And she said she was currently going through a similar situation with infidelity, not exactly like mine, but infidelity in her marriage. And she wanted to share with me her story. And I told her, sure. She said it was like really long. And she asked me if she could email me. And I said, yeah, go ahead and email me, you know. And I read the email yesterday. And me and her, I got on a phone call with her because the email is, you know, pretty extensive. And me and her spoke, and she is such a beautiful soul. She is such a beautiful soul. And so we talked, and she told me, like, look, you can share it on your YouTube if you want. I really just don't have the courage myself to ever go online and talk about my personal business, but share it on, share it with your viewers. Obviously, we're going to keep her name and everything private. But yeah, I wanted to share her story with you guys and just talk about what it looks like when you are trying to recover from infidelity. And if you agree with taking a person back after infidelity. Do you feel like you can recover from infidelity, or do you feel like once somebody cheats, it's just over and done? So I'm gonna read the email. It's a pretty long email, so just let me see. Just stick with me. I'm gonna try to read it all the way through. I might kind of like give a little commentary on certain things again, just because it's a little extensive. Okay. Hey, Tisha, I never thought I would be the woman writing one of these emails, but here I am. I honestly don't know if I'm looking for advice, validation, or someone to tell me I'm not crazy. My husband and I have been married for 6 years. Before all of this happened, I honestly thought we had a good marriage. We laughed all the time, we traveled, we started a family, and from the outside looking in, people constantly told us that we were couple goals. About 2 years ago, my entire world fell apart. I noticed he started acting different for a few months. His phone suddenly became glued to his hand. He started taking calls outside. And if I walked into a room, he would always lock his screen. Anytime I asked if something was wrong, he would tell me he was fine and that I was just overthinking. Eventually, I started to question what I was feeling. Doesn't that sound familiar? You definitely start to question what you feel. One night, he fell asleep on the couch with his phone next to him. I wasn't planning on looking through it. I was just going to plug it into the charger. As I picked up the phone, a message popped up. The message read, "I miss you already." My stomach dropped. I felt sick. I felt nauseous. I opened the message and my chest ripped. I opened the message and it felt like someone reached into my chest and ripped my heart out. There were months of messages between them. They were making plans to meet. They were exchanging I love yous. There were hotel confirmations, photos being sent, and even conversations about me and details that only belonged inside of our marriage. I remember physically shaking so bad I could barely hold the phone. I immediately woke him up and confronted him, and he denied everything. Then he admitted that they had just been talking. When I showed him the hotel receipts, he said it was just a mistake. I really dislike when cheaters say it was a mistake. Cheating is not a mistake. It's the most intentional thing you can do. That is not a mistake. But let me stay focused. Every time I presented more evidence, the story changed. I know that all too well. That's just how it works. It just keeps changing. Eventually, he started crying. He told me he hated himself, and he promised that it was over with her and he would end it. He begged me not to throw away our marriage over the biggest mistake of his life. His parents called me. My family asked me to think about this before leaving. Also, our pastor got involved, and he said marriages could survive infidelity. Everyone kept telling me it was just a mistake and that I should forgive my husband. And honestly, I wanted to believe that because I truly love my husband. So I decided to stay. He agreed to therapy, and we started going to marriage counseling every week. He gave me passwords to everything. He deleted social media. He shared his location. He answered every question I had, even when it was uncomfortable. For almost a year, I believe we were rebuilding. He became more attentive. We started going on dates again. He would bring me flowers. He talked more about becoming a better husband. Every little step made me think maybe this nightmare happened for a reason. Things felt like they were getting better than ever. Maybe this is what healing really looked like. But there were still days I struggled, of course. Sometimes I wake up from nightmares where I was reliving the messages. Sometimes I will have panic attacks. Sometimes I will wonder where he was when he wasn't at home. But every time those fears came up, he always reassured me. I would never hurt you like that again. I know I broke your trust, but I'm earning it back. And I really believed him. And then about 2 months ago, so this is recent, okay? Everything fell apart again. I wasn't snooping. He accidentally left his email open on our laptop after paying some bills. I noticed an unfamiliar name in his inbox, and my heart instantly knew what it was. When I clicked on it, I found hidden accounts, secret email addresses. And that's when I realized he never stopped. Not only had he been communicating with the original woman again, but there was another woman. The messages overlapped. Wow. While he was sitting beside me in a marriage counseling, talking about rebuilding trust, he was telling another woman she made him feel alive again. Listen, this is real. I experienced, well, you know what? Let me keep going. Ooh. While he was holding my hand during therapy, he was making plans to meet someone else. While he was looking me in my eyes, promising me he'd change, he was living an entirely separate life. The hardest part isn't even the cheating anymore. It's realizing that the apology, every tear, every counseling session, every promise may have simply been another performance. And I don't even know what's real anymore. I don't know if the man I married ever actually existed. When you realize that who you thought, they just never existed. They never existed. Or I just love the version of him that I wanted me to see. He says this time is different and that he is the problem. But how many times does something stop being a mistake and start becoming a pattern? I'm so exhausted. I'm so hurt. I am dying from I don't know if I can say that on YouTube, but she says feel like she's, that unaliving from the inside. I feel embarrassed because I gave him a second chance and so many people told me to do so. Part of me still loves him and I also hate him. Another part of me wonders if staying another day means betraying myself. I keep asking myself whether forgiveness requires reconciliation. It doesn't. Or whether sometimes the most loving thing you could do for yourself is walk away. So I guess that's why I reached out to you. At what point do you stop fighting for a marriage and finally start fighting for yourself? Woo. Okay. Well, I want to say this first, okay? And this is why I wanted to read her message. I want to clear up something because I noticed a lot of people have commented this. In this marriage that I was in with this man, I was not finding out about infidelity throughout the marriage and staying. I would feel like something was off and I couldn't confirm it. Everything started coming out in 2023. That's when I got confirmation of actual infidelity. At that point, I was done. For me, infidelity is 100% a deal breaker. I will not negotiate on that. I 100% believe that more times than not, when you take someone back after infidelity, they are eventually going to do it again. They're just going to find better ways to do it. That's just my belief. I'm not saying all, but more cases than not, more times than not. So I don't play with that. I feel like especially when you've had a pattern or a history of doing it for so long, you know that saying, old habits die hard. So it's so hard for people to change when they're used to doing things for so long and getting away with it. And people don't change simply because you're telling them to, or even with an ultimatum. They're going to make you believe that they're going to change, but eventually they're going to resort back to who they really are. Because if they have a pattern or history in cheating, that's just who they are. That's a character flaw, right? So going back to her, I never would encourage a woman to stay after infidelity. I don't tell people what to do in their marriages. You have to figure that out for yourself. You have your own journey, your own process, and you have to make your decisions. But I do not personally believe in taking somebody back after betrayal, because it's not a mistake. Infidelity is so intentional. Even when she mentioned months before finding out how he had been acting different, and she mentioned, him being glued to his phone. Basically, his patterns changed. He was more withdrawn and, hiding his phone when she would come around and things like that. That's all. That's not an accident. That's not a mistake. That's very intentional. You're being very intentional about betraying me, And I really believe that it's hard for people to just turn that off when they're used to being who they are, right? Now, beyond that, as a woman, this is what I had to realize. In order to stay with a man who has betrayed you, there is so much of yourself that you have to lose. There's parts of yourself that you are losing, that you are sacrificing. You lose a little bit of your self-esteem. You lose a little bit of self-respect. You lose a little bit of your self-love. There's a part of you that dies when somebody betrays you, and now you have to stay. Now you're trying to convince yourself to stay in that. There's a lot of self-abandonment that goes into trying to stay with a man who has betrayed you like that. And she mentioned it in here. She said, let me go back to where she said, how she struggled even after going to therapy, how she said that she would wake up with nightmares. She would have panic attacks. She started to be, when he would leave the house, she started worried about where he was at and who he was with. You can't live like that. There's so much of yourself that you have to lose and sacrifice. And it's a part of you that truly dies internally when your partner cheats on you. And for me, there's no way I could stay in a situation where I'm having to give up parts of myself, lose a part of myself. A little bit of my self-esteem is now, a little bit of my self-respect, a little bit of my self-love, my self-worth. I'm losing, parts of that are being shed because I'm trying to stay in a situation with a man who made a conscious decision to betray me, to hurt me, to break our vows. That's self-abandonment. That's you now starting to betray yourself. And for me, I would never recommend that. The moment I'm going to sleep and I'm having nightmares about this man cheating on me, and every time he walk out the door, I'm having a panic attack about where he is, you have to wrap it up. You have to wrap it up. And no, you're not crazy. And again, me and her have already spoke. We had a long phone conversation yesterday. So, she knows how I feel. But no, you're not crazy. You don't have to internalize this. You don't have to carry this burden. This is not your burden to carry. He has the character flaw. You've been loyal. You've been committed to your vows. And I think the other part of this which is always interesting to me, is how, you can, like she said, she thought she was in a happy, healthy marriage, right? She thought she had a great marriage. And so once her world became flipped up and now she realized that she was married to a person who has a character flaw, now she's also in therapy. And I always find that so interesting that one person's decision can cause so much damage. It can be so detrimental to you that now I need therapy. Whereas though she was fine. And now you're in therapy with him for his actions. And so all of those things, I'm just like, no, this is not for me to carry. And so I personally, infidelity for me is a no. The moment you cheat, the relationship is over because it's too intentional. And also, betrayal is a form of abuse and it's extremely traumatic. It literally shocks your nervous system. It literally can cause you physical illnesses. Okay. I read a story about a few months ago. A woman unalived herself because she found out her husband had been having multiple affairs. And her family says she spent months trying to rationalize it and overcome it. And she was just so devastated and broken. This woman unalived herself after finding out her husband was having an affair. Betrayal is traumatic. It's traumatic. It is a shock to your nervous system. And when you take into account how traumatic betrayal is, I just do not agree with staying with the very person that caused that trauma. Like you're walking around with this with your nervous system dysregulated, and you're trying to stay with the person that is the very cause of it being dysregulated. The very cause of your trauma, your anxiety now. This woman went from being happy, healthy in her marriage and thinking that they were comfortable to now she's having nightmares and panic attacks when he leaves the house. And she shared some extra details with me on the phone, and I'm only going to read what's here. But it was like she went through so much trying to convince herself to stay. She was emotionally, dying inside, trying to forgive this man, trying to rationalize, it was a mistake, and did all of that only to find out that he was still doing it. That he had never stopped talking to the first woman. And then there was another woman. And this is what I'm saying. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. Once a person betrays you, they are showing you exactly who they are. Believe them. Believe them. And I'm not saying that people can't change. I'm not saying that they can't correct that behavior. But I just truly believe that because it is so intentional to go out and harm somebody in that way, like you did not consider me at all. You didn't consider me at all. And the level of rebuilding it takes to get back to normal, you're never really going to be normal after that. Because whoever got cheated on, you're living in a constant state of like turmoil for a long time due to this person's decisions. So that's why I personally, again, I don't tell married people how to operate in their marriage. It's not, that ain't my ministry, But I personally, I just do not agree with taking someone back after they cheat. Like I said, in 2023, when I got the first confirmation, when it was confirmed and I had the evidence that that man in fact cheated, I was done. There was no reconciling that. And then realizing his patterns and how long he did it, I was like, oh yeah, this is who you are. This is who you are. You're never going to change. You're never going to change. But I've had women reach out to me and tell me similar stories where they tried to reconcile after infidelity and it just did not go as they thought it would. Let him go. Let that man go. You cannot hold on to that man. Like you're literally, your nervous system is wrecked and you're trying to hold on to the person that contributed to wrecking it. Let him go. Let it go. But in regards to this email, and I told her this on the phone, you gave it a chance. You, as a wife, you did all you could do to save your marriage, even when he broke it. And he showed you that he never had good intentions, even with the therapy. Remember, she said he gave me his phone, location, passwords, all that stuff. I just did a video about this, like 2 videos ago, where I talked about this, in my marriage, all the transparency, and he still was doing the most. So, all of those things he did to reassure her, and then he had a whole hidden email account. And it's just like, at this point, you have to walk away because this is just who he is. He's not committed to changing and he's not committed to you. And so you have to let it go. And more importantly, you can't keep abandoning yourself. And at this point, you're betraying yourself if you stay. Like you need to heal your body. mentally, emotionally, you said you feel like you're dying from the inside. So you have to let that man go. You got to let him go. And just for a spoiler alert, because you know it's not going to be an update, official update to this, but she did tell me that she moved in with her parents. She left the house and moved in with her parents. So she is going to be filing for divorce. But yeah, she said she felt like she was going crazy because he was reassuring her for so long and making her feel like he was doing the work and doing all the things. And then she was blindsided again by that. I know some people can recover from it, but I personally, nope, it's too intentional, it's too thought out, and it's a reminder that you had zero consideration for me. And so for me, it's going to be a no. But drop down in the comments and send our friend here some love and some just some positive advice. Like I said, she's already removed herself from the environment and she is pursuing a divorce. But obviously, even with the divorce, there's still, it's not over. She still has to heal herself. You know what I mean? Like, she was in love with her husband. So she has a long journey ahead just to heal from this and recover from this emotionally. And so I'm going to send her some positivity and some love. And yeah, drop down in the comments. Let me know what you guys think. Please be respectful. I'll see you on the next video. Bye.